Welcome to Beerstories from Beerstory Brewhouse. This is my grain to glass video on my award-winning double mast Imperial Coffee Stout. I won Best of Show with this beer in 2022 at a local competition with 40 breweries. 10 of them were homebrewers and rest real breweries. And I won Best of Show in the category above 6 ABV. It's a double mast Imperial Coffee Stout and it's a lovely beer. So I think, you should try and brew it as the recipe says here. But I did change a thing when I brewed it. This is the first time I added lactose. So instead of the dextrin malts in the recipe, you could add lactose. I don't like the way lactose ages, so I pulled it out of the recipe. I brewed this 3 months before the competition and that was spot on. But after 6 months, I don't think the lactose does anything good. So I pulled it out of the recipe, but you can add it back in. Just replace it with the dextrin malts. Yeah, so I brewed 30 liters or about 7 gallons of this. Boiled it for 2 hours to create some Maillard reactions and also to darken the beer. Creating these Maillard reactions and boiling it for longer can actually make it more shelf stable. So that's why I did that. It's a pretty strong beer. As you can see up here, it's about 10.6% ABV. And there's a reason for this, because I actually like my stouts bigger than that. I think 14% is perfect for these types of beers. But they can scare off a lot of mainstream beer drinkers or whatever you want to call them, consumers. So I brewed this to win the contest, and I did. And I think I won the contest because it was a big flavored beer. It was rich, it was full-bodied, it was thick, but it still wasn't overly strong. So it appealed to more people, I think. So if I were to brew this only for myself, I would brew it bigger. But if you wanted to have more people that actually can drink this beer, I think this is a perfect balance. Original gravity was 1102. Final gravity, 1021. One of the reasons why I added lactose in the first batch was actually because to also bump up the body. But you got oats in here and you got dextrin malts in here to do that now. There were also oats in the original recipe, of course, but so the lactose gave it just a little bit more body and some sweetness, but I don't think it's necessary. This recipe is as good as it is. So that was the reason people said I won this, because it was so thick and it was full flavored. It was, it's just a very well balanced beer. And this is due to the malt bill that I'll run through in a minute. But EBC, you can see, is a black beer. It has a beautiful light brown foam. And it's really a dark beer. It's 117 EBC, so it's pitch black. IBUs is just about 60 IBUs, and that's just to balance out the sweetness, and it works very well. You can actually go higher if you want. Yeah, if you want it more fresh or to be able to drink it faster, but I actually like the sweetness as it is here, because you can really experience all the flavors in the sweetness better when the hops aren't there to disturb anything. But it has to be this high to balance out the beer. You can also see the BU-GU ratio is not in the middle, it's in the lower range. If you should do anything, you should bump up the IBUs just to make it here in the middle, but don't go over there, over the middle. But try it as it is here. It's a beautiful beer. Fermentables, there are quite a lot of them. I started out with 41% Maris Otter, 33% of Chateau Munich. That's a dark one on 25 EBC. It's kind of already, well, the Maris Otter is already building up the malt flavor in this by adding some biscuitness, and then paired with the Munich malt, it adds some bready, nutty flavors in there as well. So that's kind of the base in this. And then I built up the character with the Carafa Special, both 1 and 2, to give it coffee and chocolate notes. The Carafa Special 3 is, it doesn't taste as much as the Carafa 1 and 2. It's just more dark. And then of course Special B to give it some caramelly, dried black fruit flavors. The wheat malt just to build up some head retention, and then the roasted barley to make it a true stout. And then if you wanted to, you could add instead of dextrin malts up here, you could add lactose instead. But the dextrin malts is just there to give it some sweetness and build up the body as well. And the flake dose is there to build up the body. And then the rice hulls just to avoid getting a stock mash. And then I double mashed it. You can see a video down in the description or out here in the end on how I do my double mash. Yeah, that was a grain build. Hops, I used Target for bittering hops. I boiled them for 2 hours, just like the rest. So if you add about 55 IBUs of Target, and then late kettle edition, 15 minutes left of the boil, I added 4 IBUs of East Kent Goldings. You can skip the last one if you want. After 3 months, there's not much left of it, so yeah. I mashed for above just more than 2 hours, because I did first mash 65 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit up here somewhere, 60 minutes. Then the second mash, the same. And then I mashed out 10 minutes at 78 Celsius. And I use Fermentis SO4 in this, 5 packages. So it's really, really, really important that you use yeast nutrition in this beer. Otherwise you'll get a stock fermentation. I just used stout dark ale water profile. It almost matches my my water profile from my tap. So I didn't really add anything than just a small touch of chalk. That's it actually. And then I added cold brewed coffee. I make sure everything was sanitized, and then I just crushed my it was 90, there's about 100 grams of good coffee, whole bean. I crushed the beans, and then I put it in the fridge for 25 hours or 24 hours. So I cold steeped the coffee. I made a cold brew coffee, and added that to the keg when I kegged it. I also had 1 vanilla stick in the fermenter when under the fermentation, just to give it again just a touch of sweetness. But you can leave that out. If you use a vanilla stick, just put it in boiling water and add it to the fermenter. That's fine. 5 packages of Fermentis SO4. SO4 is a beast of a yeast. It ripped through this beer in like 2 days, but I let it sit for the primary fermentation, 90 degrees Celsius for 7 days. And then I just ramped up the temperature after 7 days for just a couple of days. I'd probably let it sit for a week. You should do that, but just a couple of days was actually enough when you let it ferment for 7 days, because it's done fermenting in 2, max 3 days. And then you let it sit for 4 days and then ramp up the temperature, and it should be good. There shouldn't be any off flavors at all. I wouldn't cold crash this beer. It's not necessary because you have to age it at least 3 months before you start drinking it. So I brewed this 3 months before the competition, and it was spot on. And I think it was actually better at 6 months, but that's a personal opinion. At 3 months, it's good. Right out of the... I carbonated for a couple of days, and when I had the first sip of the beer, I think it was pretty astringent. The roasted character was really powerful. And then I tried it after a month, after 2 months, and then again at the competition. And it was a totally different beer at competition time. So give it 3 months at least. Yeah, it just makes it a whole new beer, and it's rounded, it's soft, it's beautiful. So do that. So the flavors in this beer was just such a beautiful beer. The coffee, you can smell the coffee. The cold brew coffee has a huge aroma and a real mild and rounded flavor, and that's really what you get in this beer. Then coupled with the sweetness, with the sweetness from the malt bill, it's just a beautiful coffee experience with a little hint of licorice and a little hint of chocolate. If you use lactose, it would actually accentuate the chocolate flavors, I think. It's just such a beautiful and complex beer. You get a little bit of molasses. You get that coffee chocolate flavor. It's just a beautiful beer. You won't be able to really taste the vanilla stick, but it's just there to give support to everything else going on in this beer. It's not supposed to be a pastry stout, it's supposed to be a coffee stout. So don't overdo anything with vanilla, just make it it's just there to build up the coffee actually. So it's a really beautiful beer. If I were to brew this again, I would also cold bean it, because that would give it, more coffee aroma. But you can play around with that if you want to, adding an extra addition of whole coffee beans to the fermenter. Down in the description there is a video on how to how to double mash, but also how to add coffee to a beer like this. I really recommend you to brew it. It's a beautiful beer. Just remember to let it age for 3 months before you should try it as soon as you can, but keep some beer to after 3 months, because it's really there. It will be all together, round, mild, just a full flavored beer that just tastes great. If you have any questions, write to me. See the video about double mashing over here somewhere. And other than that, just have a happy brewing.